Welcome. Let's talk about making reports in Smartsheet. Agenda is pretty straightforward. I'm going to give you an overview, and just like always, we're going to do an exam prep. To get started, when you have a report, the primary column cannot be changed. It's just something that you may have the instinct to do when you first see it. We can't change it. I'll show you in a second. In order to see the data in reports, users must be shared to the underlying sheet or sheets. Multiple sheets can funnel together to populate a report, or it could just be one sheet. But if you don't share those sheets with the people that you want to see the report to, you want them to be able to see the report, they're going to be frustrated. It's going to be blank. So again, we talked about this previously when we talked about workspaces. Check that lesson out if you don't remember, but you want to make sure you share the report and the sheet. Data only, there is no charts. I can't tell you how many people have asked me they want to see a report with a bunch of charts. That's different. Charts are only on dashboards. We're talking about reports, which are really like filtered sheets. You'll see that in a second. There are no data functions. You can do data functions in sheets, which we just previously covered, and then the result, or the numbers that result from those functions can then hit the report, but you can't actually go into a report and enter some functions. There's no sum, there's no count like functions. The data functions can only be applied in the sheets, and then, as I said before, reports are more like filtered sheets. That's how you should try and remember them. Reports can be used to modify the data in underlying sheets. In other words, if you share a report with somebody, you make them the editor of both that report and the underlying sheet, and they want to make a change, they can actually double click on any of the cells in a report and change the numbers, or change the drop down, or change the person, the point of contact, whatever it is. That change will also be reflected in the underlying sheet. It's an effective way of changing data. Lastly, do remember when you work with reports and you use any of the day functions, like show me a report of all the tasks due in the next 5 days, those are business days. All right, for exam prep, we're going to create a report, and we're going to call it Mansion 1. The way you create anything, like I've said before, is you can go to File, Create New, or we're going to go back to the Home. And if I go here, Browse, this used to be called Home, so I have a bad habit of saying that, Create, and now we're going to go down here to Report. Like I said, we're going to call this Mansion 1. Next, we're going to include, so I'm going to actually click on it. We're going to open this up. As soon as you come in the first time, it does what it just did to me, where it prompts you with all of these different options across the top. Just to show you, in case you accidentally click out of that or something, you've got a blank report, you can start again. You just click Source Sheets is where we were. We're going to go to Certification Exam Workspace, the Certification Exam folder. I want that prep sheet. I'm going to say OK. All right, so let's move ahead then. The columns to include. So if you see over here, we already chose our sheet. Now we're going to do columns. So I'm going to click here, and it says task, start, end, house, and completion percentage. The task column is the primary column. It's already there. If you recall, we changed the primary column to be called task when we first built the sheet, but reports, they automatically default back to calling it primary. I'll show you how to change it in a second. So let's skip that one. You don't have the option to exclude it. We're going to go to Start. Then I'm going to include the end, and we're just checking all these off. House and completion percentage, which is here. I'm going to say OK. While we're here, I'm going to go over to primary. I'm going to double click on this, and we're going to call this task. Before I forget, I'm going to say OK. Also, I did say you can't delete it, you can't get rid of it, but if you wanted to, for whatever reason in the future, you could hide it by right-clicking and saying hide like I just did. I'm going to Control-Z and bring that back. All right, let's see what's next. Filters such that only the information from Mansion 1 is displayed. So what that means is we established our sheet, then our 4 columns. You could have done more, you could have done less. Now I'm going to go to Filter. And this is like the beauty, the meat and potatoes of a report. You get to filter things. Like I said before, it's really just a filtered sheet. That's all reports are. Select the field against which we want to filter. And Mansion 1. I remember making a column called House, where we determined which was it, House 1, House 2, House 3, Mansion 1, etc. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to say is equal to. There's a few ways we could have also said it contains, or let's just go ahead and say is one of, because that'll give me a nice drop down option, and I'm just going to say mention one. That way I don't risk misspelling it. And I think that's it. I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to arrange the columns in a logical order. Reports always do this. They put it in like a weird order. To be honest, I'm not even sure how they come up with it. Nonetheless, I think this makes sense. The only thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to suggest you do, is since we know this is for mention one, I'm going to just hide this column. There's no point in being redundant there. Let's go ahead and say correct the primary column title. We already did that. Save this in a Gantt view. So this is very helpful if you ever want to put a Gantt chart. I know I just said you can't have charts in reports. There's an exception. You can have a Gantt chart, but Smartsheet calls it a Gantt view. I'm going to zoom out from my default. I'm actually going to click that twice so I can see all those tasks nice and easily. And that's it. Now I'm going to push save. You just built your first report. I hope you found that pretty straightforward. That's about all there is to it. Don't forget you can actually change all of these. The group function is something that Smartsheet just came out with. It's a way of trying to get some hierarchy to show up on your reports. You click that and you tell it how you want them grouped. Maybe you could do it by who's the point of contact, by what month are they starting in, things like this. Summarize and sort, they're pretty self-explanatory. In light of being an exam prep course, this is the important stuff that you need to know. I will see you in the next lesson.